So, Pisitta, today we are here in this nice environment, and we're going to talk a little bit about the change that has taken place in the new generation and what organizations and leaders should bear in mind in order to be successful in their succession planning, right? So, as you all know, Perdita is our organization change scientist of APAC Global Advisory. And aside from being an expert in organization change development, she also researches and writes and teaches around leadership, and in particular, in the leading German management school WHU that she's in. She also works very closely with the MBA at bachelor students, I gather. So share with me, Patricia, what you see today.
Absolutely. And thank you, Mei Wai, for having me here. So I've been an educator for almost a decade now, and mostly working in a Western context, being the Netherlands and in Germany. And lately, of course, I've been working a lot with our new generations,
Yes.
mostly the Gen Z.
Yeah.
So they are my students. So they would be now around 20 something in terms of age, and they will be in kind of this bachelor and master program. And one of the things that we have observed a lot actually is this shift in demand from a more typical management programs to a more entrepreneurs oriented kind of program. And this is also kind of reflected in the change in behaviors and preferences that I see in the students, where, if they have a chance to do internship or start working, they would no longer go for kind of the more typical managerial career that we're used to, but more of the really entrepreneurs kind of type of career. So, going to intern in a startup venture or become a startup founder themselves. Um,
Well, Patricia, I kind of relate to that quite a bit as well. Because working with family businesses on their succession planning or different organizations, I personally had been growing up during the generation where it was aspirational to have great success in a corporate career and climb that corporate career ladder as quickly as possible. But then once I got there, I realized, hey, no big deal, right? And then I moved into looking at entrepreneurship, going to that, diving into creativity, and realizing the whole world out there is there's so much to learn beyond just that corporate route. So totally relate to you on that.
yeah.
And in fact, I see what the new gen are doing is that perhaps they are smarter than us in a way that they really realize that they need a portfolio career right from the start, and they do a bit of this and they do side gigs, yeah, to get that whole balanced experience
Yeah.
that we are trying to do in more of a linear way, making sure we're successful in our corporate before we
100%. Yeah.
more bold and courageous, I would
Yes,
say.
I see a lot of examples of that because I'm, in touch with a lot of alumni and students basically keep me up to date on what they're up to with what they're doing. And there's one student, for example, so she is an analyst at this venture lab, helping the venture capital to look at what companies they want to invest in. They also, this person also is a founder herself. And she also, because she has this passion for social impact, that she's also working at this nonprofit organization to be a kind of a researcher in residence to help to support female entrepreneurs.
Oh,
And she's also a podcaster herself. So you can see that she's kind of juggle almost 4 different gigs in parallel.
yes.
So just yeah, just to kind of summarize kind of the qualities that I see in Gen Z or the new generation these days. So of course they care about having financial stability, but what I see they really prioritize in terms of what they want to engage in is to have a lot of autonomies in what they do. They want to have flexibility, work-life balance, and they also want to have a lot of opportunities to learn on the job. So, Mei Wai, what would be your advice to leaders who work with the new generation, especially when it comes to dealing with the succession planning?
That's a really good question. Well, Pisitta, I think that based on the opportunities and change that you have mentioned in uh, the new generation, what can happen is you structure their roles in a way that there's flexibility for them to also take on projects. And these projects, I mean, could be not just projects laterally, like what we did in our generation, to experience the other function, but projects where they can work directly with the boss,
Mm.
right? And the senior team, because that will be very inspirational for them as they like to learn and they can absorb like a sponge very quickly. Any projects that relate to creativity in
Mm.
any aspects, like you mentioned, podcasts, videos, etc., get them involved. Like our colleague here, Huizi, who's also filming us today in
Yeah.
the Botanic Gardens. And very importantly, what I've heard is that many young people get lost in the large corporate organizations.
Mm.
So it's very important to set up a very good mentoring, coaching system to allow them to um, learn, feedback, discuss, and feel safe so they can be guided through their careers. So these will certainly increase interest. For family, also think about including them in their business trips,
Mm.
visits to trade fairs, etc. These will be extremely useful for them to hone in on their entrepreneurial skills.
Mm.
So with that, Pratita, thank you very much for sharing what's actually happening in Germany and Netherlands with the young. And thank you.